Months and months and months ago, that's Jarmo Kekalainen on Sabres Live. He is the new general manager of the Buffalo Sabres after the team announced yesterday that they have relieved Kevin Adams of GM duties, and now Jarmo Kekalainen is the man in charge. Joining us on the Western Hotline is Aaron Portzline of the Athletic and NHL Network. He covers the Blue Jackets and covered Jarmo for quite some time, 11 years as GM of the Blue Jackets. Aaron, thanks for taking some time this morning.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
So, hearing that clip there from Kekäläinen, is his self-evaluation correct, aggressive, analytical, striking when the iron's hot? Seems to be what he would evaluate himself as.
Yeah. I don't think there's much room to argue there. I mean, did anybody strike when they thought the iron was hot more than Jarmo did in 2019 at the trade deadline, where the Blue Jackets literally were not in a playoff spot. They thought they should have been a much better team than they had been that season, and he went all in. I mean, all in. First-round draft picks that year, the next year, adding Duchesne, like really bulking up for that 2019 playoff run. And, of course, they upset Tampa in the first round. It didn't get them where they ultimately wanted to be. They lost in the second round to Boston. But he will go all in. He is deeply analytical. He is, I think he's an interesting mix of patience but passion too. And I listen, I think this is such a difficult job, GM, that I almost want a second-time guy. I think Jarmo made mistakes here that he has learned from, stuff he would not do again. But things pop up, and every situation's a little bit different. I think the Sabres got a good one, and I'll be curious to see who he puts around him, because I do think he needs to buttress his front office with different personalities and people than himself.
Aaron, with regard to like the second time around, like he's jumping on a team that, I mean, has some talent. It's not starting an expansion franchise, not starting from, a team that necessarily bottomed out. When he started in Columbus, where were they? Like the idea that, what you build is part of what you inherit. What did he inherit, and ultimately how did it go early on?
Well, it must be said he inherited Sergei Bobrovsky. He inherited Nick Foligno and Cam Atkinson, right? Like there were players here. I believe Cam Atkinson. There were players here. There was the foundation of a pretty good team here that was just sort of a wandering lost. In a lot of ways, not unlike Buffalo. Just they had made the playoffs in 08-09, and then in 9, 10, 10, 11, 11, 12, they were just they crashed out. They were, looking for different coaches. They were kind of all over the place with what they were trying to be and who they thought they could be. But Scott Howson, the previous GM, did not leave the cupboard bare. I mean, obviously it starts with Bobrovsky. That's a pretty good piece to build around. He won the first of his 2 Vezinas in Jarmo's first year. Jarmo deserves credit, though, I think on the culture end for sure. They damn near made the playoffs his first season. If you remember, they lost out on a tiebreaker at the end of that shortened 12-13 season. They made it the next season, and I think they thought they were going to go straight line up, and then they missed it for a couple of years. And then it began 16-17 where they made the playoffs for 4 straight years. The longest stretch of success in franchise history, the best years of the franchise where they won the most, but never could get quite up and over the playoff hurdles in the first round.
That would be right. Is that right around when they acquire Panarin?
Yeah, another bold move, right? After 16-17. He went and got Panarin with no assurances that Panarin would extend. And, of course, he didn't. And they lost Bobrovsky and Panarin after the 2018-19 season, which has been, to this point, the only time the Blue Jackets have played into the second round of the playoffs.
Yeah.
The one thing I'll say about Jarmo, and I, for his sake, I hope this is the thing that maybe is the most growth from his time here in Columbus. There were a lot of contracts and a lot of times where contract talks and negotiations got personal. And I suspect he's learned from that. Panarin's got a little bit weird, but Panarin was pretty clear that he was moving on. Bobrovsky's got personal twice. Josh Anderson, Ryan Johansson. I mean, there were so many that kind of blew up into the public sphere. And I think he's learned from that. I think not to take things so personally. He's a very passionate man. And I have to say this, too. I probably should have started with this. It's incredible when you think of what the last 48 hours have been for Jarmo Kekalainen. And certainly condolences to him and his family on the loss of his father. I cannot imagine the roller coaster of emotions to go from losing your father to having this great return to the NHL on the professional side. But certainly condolences. I know he was extremely close to Kari Kekäläinen. And so this is while an exciting moment for him, for sure, a very tough time for the family.
Aaron, I want to follow up on the contracts got personal and into the public sphere. How do you mean? Like where they would comment on it, the players would say they felt like it was personal, or just they dragged feet? Is that a GM thing? Is that the analytical side? Is that the ownership side? Like how when you look back at it, what was the reason that happened multiple times?
Well, I think there would be offers that the team believed were fair. The players didn't. Agents didn't. And when it reached the point where people weren't willing to budge, the player would say something or management would say something, would express their frustration with it. And there were times where I don't think relationships recovered from that. I do think it got better as he went along. I do think he benefited at times from having the presence of the John Davidson here in Columbus and others. I think other people started to handle some negotiations for Jarmo. I think for him it got personal, and it got, again, so passionate about it, and what he thought was a fair contract offer. If others didn't, he would sometimes take umbrage with that. And you can't do that, especially now where players have so much leverage. And again, Jarmo is a smart man. I think he's learned from these things. I think GMs are often much better in their second jobs than their first, because they do work out a lot of the kinks.
Part of that, I wonder how much of that would have been the market and the team reputation. The Sabres have had their own kind of identity crisis with players for the last few years, and I think struggling to get players to either stick around or come here in the first place. And I'd imagine they're probably on more no trade clause lists maybe than Columbus were at that point in time. But navigating that, Aaron, I mean, I guess you kind of mentioned with Panarin too, right? Like, he's a guy that might be willing to make an acquisition without assurances that the guy would stay long term?
Yeah, I think the market has a part of it too. Sure, I think there's probably a tax to play in some cities in the NHL until it gets up and going and players know they can win there. That's probably fair. I think more than anything, I think Jarmo is such a prideful, passionate person that when the Blue Jackets first believed in him, he became tried and true Blue Jackets. And the idea that other people wouldn't be as engaged or passionate about playing for this team, this franchise, that's the kind of stuff I think that bothered him. And I think he'll probably feel the same way about Buffalo. Like, they're different cities. Certainly Buffalo has a longer history. They've had a longer stretch of struggling here than the Blue Jackets have. But it's a proud freaking city, and the people there deserve it. And I think Jarmo wants nothing more than to give it to them. 11
years as the GM. Anything you picked up on over the years and what he looks like, what he looks for in a coach, and whether there are common threads there, depending on whether the Sabres move on from Lindy. We could be looking at that.
Tortorella, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, right.
And that, for the most part, went really well. It did. It went really, really well. It was the winningest coach in franchise history. I think he likes people who are driven, who are tough but fair, who do not flinch, do not back down. What is right is right. So the top line guy and the fourth line guy. That's kind of how Jarmo lives his life. He's that kind of guy. He expects everyone to be held to the right and proper standard. And the guy's an incredible drafter. Like he looks into players and finds things that other people tend to miss. He can run a draft. So that's always fun to watch. But the coach thing, listen, he swung and missed at the end here too. Like the Babcock, I do believe that the hiring of Mike Babcock ultimately led to his demise here. I think that just rattled the franchise so much that there was no way to recover. But the Tortorella hiring was bang on. The team needed it. I think he wants tough, driven, motivated, and a pusher, a guy who's going to push. And I hope he's learned that there also has to be some sense from the players that the coach also cares about them, which is the thing that people miss with Tortorella, that's always present in every interaction.
Aaron Portzline on the Western Hotline. Aaron, thanks so much for the time. Appreciate it very much.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you. Aaron's covered the Blue Jackets, covers them with the Athletic, and a lot of experience with Jarmo Kekalainen. Good information there on who he is, what he's been.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that year that they went for it, and I remember...
Do you remember why they had to go for it right then and there?
Because Panarin and Bobrovsky were going to leave.
They were both leaving.
So they decided, let's go for something here.
Right.
And I had this. I remember my take on it. I don't remember all my takes, but I do remember my take. It was similar to the Colts this year, and it's kind of something I'm evolving into, which is, what are you supposed to do? Not try?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm the GM of this team. I'm going to lose two great players. Maybe I can make a trade at the deadline and change what ultimately will happen. They get in, they win a round, and then those guys leave, and sure, he set the franchise back. Like a first, second, and third round pick, trading a first, second, and third in the same draft. Would any Sabre fan be scared off by that right now? All they've done is amass these first round picks.
Right.
Second and third round picks barely matter. So, I remember admiring that, even though it was a buyer's move by a team that shouldn't necessarily buy. The Colts this year with Sauce Gardner, people hammer them for that. I think, what are they supposed to do? Not try? I may not be blessed with the gifts of these other teams, but I'm in the league. I got to try.
Rather than they would have been in a spot. The alternative would have been, what am I supposed to do? I'm in a spot. Try to trade them away for first-round picks?
And then
give up on this year?
And then just wait 6 years for that player to score his first goal with
right.
And there's a little straw man there. Wait 3 years?
And after, you could definitely say he set it back years by taking that run. But what did you get out of it? You just heard Aaron call it. That was the greatest stretch of years in that franchise's history. And they made the playoffs 5 times with him as the GM. I think they only made it one other time without him. That was probably the best season of their entire fan base's history. And beating the best team the regular season had ever seen. They swept them, by the way,
right,
in the first round.
The whole idea, though, is setting a franchise back based on one deadline.
You know what they did the next year, by the way?
What's that?
They beat Toronto in the first round.
In the qualifying round of COVID year? Yeah. But think about the Rams here.
Yeah, that is
think about the Rams.
Round. Yeah.
You only set the franchise back, finger quotes, if you make big moves, and then the moves you make after that are also bad. Yeah. What did the Rams do? The Rams traded first-round picks for 6-7 years.
Right.
They set the franchise back with one bad year, and then they're right back where they have to be.
Right.
So Pittsburgh traded first-round picks for a decade, the Penguins. And they ever set the franchise back, or were they just actually, no, we've made that up in other areas. So, we'll see how it goes.